I was confronted with this very big title of the presentation, so I hope I can live up to it. So I feel very, very honored to speak here today. And it's more or less my story that I'm going to present to you, which is, which led me from one side to the other, like you will see. But I would like to start with a recommendation that I got from my grandmother, who always told me, kids, smile a lot while you're young so that you get happy wrinkles and when you're old. And what I learned is that laughing and smiling is a universal language. And wherever you go, if you manage to make people laugh or smile at you, you have won their hearts, and then everything goes on. So I'm actually very grateful to my grandmother to already gave me this recommendation very early, and I just want to share it with you. To start, where do I come from? I studied economics, and my first traineeship was in an agency working for Mercedes-Benz, and we did communication projects, and all the departments were fighting against each other, like PR against advertising, against CI. So I thought what I want to become is a communications diplomat, like speaking all the languages of the different departments in a big company. So what I did is I went to an advertising agency in Hamburg, then I went to a sponsoring agency in Frankfurt, I went to a CI agency in London. I ended up working at a cloakroom, which is kind of the thing that goes out a little bit of the red thread, but I came back to become an event manager in Monaco, which finally was the first experience that made me think, because I was able to meet Nelson Mandela in 2000, and he held a very touching speech there saying sport has the power to change the world. And it's not only about sports, but it's about bringing people together, sharing a passion. So what I did after that is I didn't become communication diplomat in a big corporation, but I started my own company, a small agency called Calliope, which is one of the 9 muses in Greek mythology. And the idea behind was what the muses have been before for artists, we communications consultants should be for the companies today, like the inspiration for products and brands. So I ended up doing a lot of sports projects, and at that time you were always talking about experiences money can't buy. And I did this for about 10 years, and finally I realized that it's actually experiences money can buy. Because if you pay enough money, you will be in the paddock club in Formula 1. And if you pay enough money, you will shake hands with Brad Pitt. And so is this really where we want to go and where people start thinking about life? And at the end, it's all secure adventures. So we think we do the really cool thing, but what we are doing is we're walking the path that are already done. So how do you actually transform and make something new? This is probably a photo a lot of you have already seen. Like you have your comfort zone, and this is where the magic happens. And how do you make people get into this other side? And I was talking to a lot of neuroscientists, psychologists, and what they told me is, if you would ever want to sing something new, you have to go through uncertainty. You have to make people go somewhere where they don't get along with what they have already learned. They have to open up and be ready for something new. You still have to give a surrounding so that they don't get lost in fear. It has to still stay within the uncertainty part. So the new quest was transformation through experience. And with my ex-husband and a team, we decided to create a place of inspiration where we can bring people together to think about the challenges of the future and our current lives. And we decided to do this in Marrakesh. Because for us, Marrakesh, on the one side, this is full of magic, full of unknown, a different culture, but at the same time, it's full of controversies. And you have, like, in front of the door, a lot of the challenges that we see as a global community. You have, like, you can see here, they built the 7th golf course, and at the same time, 500 meters away, people still going to the well with to get water. You have the different culture, but you also have the gap between rich and poor that is increasing, all these things. So we moved there, we bought a house, and this was it. This is what the place of inspiration to become. And we really lived there and renovated it only with traditional craftspeople from the neighborhood. So we were walking around, looking in the little huts where they produce stuff, and I got really inspired and fascinated by what these people still can do with their hands and how passionate they are about it. And we had 1,000 donkey carts of old stuff getting out, because you actually cannot work with big machinery, so you're actually forced to work by hand. And at the same time, working with them, I also got the stories of the people. And a lot of people always ask me, like, how is it if you go there as a woman? And it was difficult at the beginning, because you read books, but you don't know how the codes actually really work. So you have to kind of adapt and learn I'm still learning, but to get kind of accommodated, I would say, like 6 months, and you kind of get along. And at the end is that's what I said at the beginning. It's about touching people. It's about laughing together and open yourself, and then also the other comes back with some stories. And this is finally how it looks today, Diana Yela, and it's really the work of the people and of our vision, but then they did it. So it's really something that was done with a lot of love, and I think this is what you can see. The first 6 months, a lot of the neighbors came with their cousins and sisters, and they were like, hey, can I show what I did? And then they were walking to this door that they did, or this table, and show it their relatives, because they were so proud of what we actually forced them to do, because it was really also a struggle to bring them to the highest quality. But then when we made it, they were really proud of it. And that made us proud as well, obviously. So, having said that, at the same time, living there, I got one of these old bags. And I was already in love with the crafts, but that was only wood and metal work that we used for the house. This was something that much more related to me. It's a bag. And I can have it with me all the time. And it really fascinated me, this old work of embroidery. So I started collecting them. And every time I got one, I got a story. And I got the story of the bag, I got the story of the maker, I got the story of the person who wore it. Because every bag at a certain time was made for like one special person. So, having said that, living there and learning these stories of these persons, I also started to research. And I learned that Morocco has the highest illiteracy rate still, not in the world, but they're very close to having the highest illiteracy rate. As you can see, it's like 44% of the women over 15 can read and write, and the younger ones, it's a little bit higher. They are doing a lot, they are improving a lot, but still, compared to the world level, they're not improving fast enough. Like you can see, this is the gender gap report of the World Economic Forum from 2006 to 2013. And Morocco always has been in the last 10. And they don't move up, although they do a lot. And especially the economic participation of the women is something where they really are far behind. And the youth unemployment rate is also extremely high. I think this is something you might have heard also with the Arabic Spring, that especially the youth is affected because of the high unemployment rates. So I thought, on the one hand, you have these incredible skills that these old people still have, but the younger generations is not learning it anymore because they don't earn enough money, it's really hard work, and if they're sitting on the side and carrying the luggage of a tourist, they earn almost the same money as they earn when they work 12 hours a day with their hands. And yeah, so I was there saying, okay, but then there is this high illiteracy rate and unemployment rate, so there seems to be a disconnection. And for me, these crafts is cultural capital, and it is a hidden potential. So why not using it to go the next step? And at that time, I crossed this quote, which today is my favorite quote: "Tradition is not to preserve the ashes, but to pass on the flame." And for me, it means like in each tradition, there is something which is worth to be passed on to the next generation. And we should, well, with all the high tech and everything that is going on, which is cool and which we should follow, there is something worth keeping in our past as well, and we shouldn't forget about that. So I thought, why not creating a co-creation model between cultures, because both sides have something and both sides lack something. So on the one side, we have cultures with tradition, with beautiful artisanat, with authenticity, and full of stories. And on the other hand, we have cultures that have market access, technology, design, marketing, but we lack a lot of sense and meaning in our life. A lot of people come to me, is like, oh, I want to do something meaningful and authentic. And so I think it's really an eye to eye in the same level that one side can learn from the other. It is an intercultural value creation. And having this all in my head set and thinking, wow, that should be easy to implement, it took me finally a little bit more than a year to get the handshake of the first village head in Marrakesh, like really saying, okay, now you have been here for the 10th time in a year now, telling me the same story every time. Okay, we try and work with you, because what I wanted from them is not that I come and pay everything, because I cannot. What I wanted is like a partnership, that we kind of grow together, and they bring in what they can do and we bring in what we can do, but that's something that is not, well, they're not used to this kind of work, obviously, and if you're disconnected from our world more or less, they also have made a lot of negative experiences. People who come and promise things and then they never come back, and they have already started things. So it's not that you go there and they are like, hey, cool, there is somebody from the West and wants to help us. No, it's really kind of winning trust, and that needs time. This is something that I learned as well. You need a lot of time in these intercultural projects, because The basis of everything is trust, and trust can only be learned through time, more or less, if you can prove yourself again and again. So this is more or less where the story of ABURY begins. We want to use design to inspire change, and we want to make it cool and fashionable to care. Why? Because ethics don't sell. So the thing is, what I want to say with ethics don't sell is, it's like people want to, especially in fashion, it's positive stories share much easier, and the ethics is an add-on that, in my opinion, should be incorporated in any company in the world, but it's not yet. But people buy something because they like it in the first place. And I think that's a very reasonable point. So we think we should use design to go the next step. So what is ABURY? ABURY is the first fashion platform really bringing together the traditional old world crafts with the avant-garde design. And we want to create a new luxury style that fosters intercultural exchange and preserves world crafts. More or less, it's like bringing together really beautiful designed products with the handmade exclusivity, so it's not mass market, and it will never be because it's handmade. And we can share the real stories of the people because we live with them. We are there. And we believe that everybody has some exceptional skills, and they just need an environment where they can blossom. So just think of anybody, but what we experience is when we come to these cultures and ask them, like, show us what you can do. Like, we cannot do anything. Like, that's the first thing, because they think, like, we in our world, we can buy everything, and so we don't appreciate what they can do. But then after time, when you talk with them and they show you actually what they can do, it's amazing. They just don't think of it themselves that it is amazing. And you actually really have to tell them that it's amazing what they can do. So our goals. Well, the UNESCO has said already in 2001, and probably you know that better than I do, cultural diversity is as important to mankind as biodiversity is to nature. So what we want to do is preserve traditional crafts, create a direct positive impact in the communities. That kind of already involves the women empowerment thing, because a lot of the people we work with are women. And we want to promote the intercultural understanding through telling these stories that we experience. And obviously, we want to create a sustainable business model, because otherwise the whole thing doesn't work at all. Then I started to do a kind of beta test, because so far, everything you have seen, that sounds very cool on the paper, but how do you actually make it real? So the first designer I was working with is actually the interior designer of the Anayela. So he was already familiar with the culture. I knew him, I trusted him, he trusted me. So we did the first collection in Marrakesh together. And we started documenting the whole process, how it is done. First you draw the pattern, then you glue a thread on it, then you have kind of a template which you hammer into the leather, and then you start kind of sewing one stitch at the other to finally have the product. And like this iPad bag, it takes about 2 days to produce one. And Yannick said that, yeah, the cultural codes are very different, and that this is sometimes hilarious and sometimes really tough. So we also started to collect these kind of designer diaries to keep the development and also to learn from the steps that they have taken. So the next one was Maita. Maita is from Brazil. She studied in Berlin. And this is how I met her. And so she didn't speak French. So that was the next step. And still she went to Morocco for 3 months to create her collection, which you can see here. And for her, it was, well, she lost 10 kilos. she was really stressed, but she did a fantastic work. Within 4 weeks, she learned the basic French, so she could communicate directly with the people. And for her, it was like really eye-opening, because otherwise you see these things happen in museums or on television, but she was like really into the whole game. And then I thought, okay, what can be done in Morocco can be probably also done in other cultures in the world. So through the university we were cooperating with, Design University, we got a contact to an NGO in Ecuador who is working with wool. So I found Daniela, Spanish designer, speaking Spanish, going to Ecuador, they speak Spanish. So like with the first collection in Morocco, first work with a French designer who speaks the language. Daniela went to Ecuador and did a knitwear collection. And at the same time, all of them gave workshops in design, in quality management, in pattern making. For example, Daniela found out that the children go to school, but they have to wear a school uniform, and there's only one supplier of the school uniforms, and they're very, very expensive. So what she did is she taught the women how to make the school uniforms themselves, so that they can send their children easier to school and save money on these uniforms. And I think one thing she said is really great, that it was the most rewarding moment of her stay to see the pride in the eyes of the artisans when they finally had made the product even better than she thought. So, so there you can see also the development. So now, how does the whole thing work? After having done these 3 kind of beta tests in different cultures, we asked ourselves, okay, now what is it what makes us different, and how can we put it on one page? And this is what came out. So on top, we have the ABURY design experience that I will explain in a minute, which is an international designer contest where we look for the best international design talent. Then we give them a grant to go to communities we work with, to really stay and live with them for 3 months. There they do workshops with them in design and quality management, and they do a collection. Then we bring the collection to the markets, and we give back the production time and education time through our own foundation. I will come back to that in a minute. So first, the ABURY design experience. So now the designers I found through ESMOD, which is a design university here in Berlin. So the same model as I thought, okay, what we can do in Morocco, we can do in Ecuador. I thought, okay, what we can do with ESMOD in Berlin, we can do with design universities worldwide. So we designed this poster, the ABURY design experience. It's in your hands. Each one of you can change the world. And what we learned is that also here, we have about 500,000 designers worldwide who graduate every year. And not even half of them find a job. Alone in Berlin, you have 5,000 registered designer labels, and if you're good, you know 50. And the rest of them, they work as graphic designers, as yoga teachers, or whatsoever, and they design at night because it's so hard to actually get a foot into the design and fashion business. So at the end, we even became a promotion platform for young designers as well. We found partners, as you just have seen, Harper's Bazaar, KPMG, and also international partners like Not Just a Label. And I think this is really cool that a luxury magazine like Harper's Bazaar is promoting an intercultural project and really says, okay, we love culture and we want to promote this intercultural exchange. And this is a summary of the applications. So what we did is we asked the people, or the designers, to apply it with some products, but also with a small video, because this project is not easy. So we need personalities that are already set. You cannot just send anybody to go to a craft community for 8 weeks. You really also have to check the social skills. So, So this is it.
I am Natalia Linero, I'm from Colombia, and first of all I want to thank you, ABURY, for giving us this opportunity.
You guys at ADEX stand for everything I believe in.
It was like a dream come true.
To make a difference, to invent things, to fix things, to improve things.
And I want to know more about the people who are behind the entire process.
Of combining modern innovation with traditional techniques.
To stand for something different.
To be part of a much larger fashion community.
Fascinated by people who work with their hands
and learn from their skills.
Knitting and weaving and painting and looking for new materials.
We have great opportunities to work with the real craftsmen.
Loved getting to know new people from completely different backgrounds.
Very inspired by culture clash.
Passion, design, and the experience of foreign culture.
I found the ABURY design experience, and here I am.
So without any marketing budget, we made it to 35 nationalities who applied, 62 fashion schools who took part. We had a huge awareness of bloggers who shared the idea, because it was so different. I was talking to some fashion designers in Berlin before and wanted to have them as an ambassador, like known fashion designers, and they were like, hey, who should apply to a designer contest who nobody knows the brand? You have designer contests of Diesel, of Gucci, of Mango. Who should apply? So actually, to be honest, there weren't a lot of believers in this idea. We still did it because we strongly believed in the potential of the story. And this is what came out, and we're really happy with this outcome. These are the finalists. You can see it from the UK, Mexico, Zimbabwe, Canada, Colombia, USA, like all over the world. And these are our two winners. It's Sam and Pam. Like we wanted it like this, yes. And Sam just graduated at the RCA in UK, and Pam is originally from Zimbabwe. She has a refugee status in the UK. And at the moment, she is already in Ecuador. And this is the little room she's working with, the women in the Andes. So she went already 2 weeks ago. So what is the key? What we learned is like continuous, transparent, clear, open communication. That's one of the key points, that everybody is like on the same level of information, and you have to involve the craftspeople and everybody in everything, because they obviously everybody is a little bit insecure in the whole process, like what is happening, what are they doing with the designs, how does this work? So, and I think this is something that is valid for any project, but in the intercultural world, I think much more than anywhere else, is be clear, open, and transparent. So where are we now? This is our website, where we talk also about the cultures, about the experiences of the people, because like what I said before, we want to share these experiences, because this is one of our missions. We have started a project in the EU as well, because preserving crafts is not only a development country issue, it's also an issue here. So we have a Bulgarian designer, a German illustrator, and a Romanian artisan who work together on our next collection at the moment. And awareness-wise and marketing-wise, obviously we want that people learn about us, because we want to sell our products, because like every business at the end, we're dependent on making turnover as well. So here, this is a German movie that was released in February, and this is one of our bags that is on the movie poster. Like through this, we got in all the big women's newspapers, obviously, and we also got awareness of some more serious magazines and papers, and you realize that slowly, also in this area, people start taking you serious after 4 years. At the beginning, it was always like, yeah, you with your, what is Moroccan bag project? And so now, after 4 years, and working in different cultures and with also some partners like KPMG, it starts that people are actually talking to you. We have some prominent ambassadors, German actresses, and who take the bag somewhere on the red carpet. And I told you we give back the hours of production and hours of education, and obviously we define success also in not only in revenues, but also in what we achieved socially. And so in the last 4 years, we created over 50,000 hours in education in Morocco, because this is where we started, and this is where we started also our first social projects. So we started talking with the people, and this is something, a learning. So in the first step, they said, okay, we want to work. And we're like, okay, cool. Then we create like a basis where you can start working with us, and we started an embroidery leather workshop, and they started to create our first products. But at the end, what came out after like 6 months, they cannot read, they cannot write, they cannot go to Marrakesh and get the leather. So I actually should have employed 2 more people who organized the whole thing, and that was by far too expensive. So we did the second step before the first. So then what we started 2 years ago is we started a school. Because I said, like, if you really want to become independent one day, you have to write your own contracts. And you have to be able to see if you go somewhere and buy something, if the merchant is kind of ripping you off or not. You have to be able to calculate. and so the women actually were like, yes, we understand, but the future are our children. We're now already 30, and I don't know what life will bring for us. but our children, they have the opportunity. So if you could give education to our children, that would be much more important to us. So I was like, okay, but I still believe with 30 there is some future. So what we can do is we give free education to your children as long as you go to school as well. And that works. We do it for 2.5 years now. We have doubled the members of the school. In the morning, we have the children who go to school, and in the afternoon, it's the women who go to school. It's pretty easy, and yeah, and it works. Sometimes it's like you said, you work so long on something, and you're like getting gray hair, and then it's like very easy and open. So through another organization, we arranged laptops to be there so that they start also working with laptops, and you can actually buy these little stickers that have the Arabic alphabet. So we put everything with the Arabic alphabet there, and it's all in, it's an Ubuntu system, and so they start slowly also to get accustomed to this modern things. What we also do is environmental days, because you have plastic everywhere, and they just don't know what it means that the plastic is in their rivers and on their fields. So it's also about education. So we do it playfully, but also explaining what it means. The same with health. Like if you go to Morocco, well, you have a lot of sweet tea, a lot of sweets, and a lot of people over 30 don't have all of their teeth anymore. So you can prevent that very easily. They have toothbrushes, they have toothpaste. Just tell them how to use it in the right way. And that's our latest project, is a lot of artisans have cataract. So we already financed 61 operations of artisans through sales of portraits that a famous German photographer did of them during the examination. So you can actually buy the photo of the person you finance the operation of. And if you want to learn more about that, that's on portrait.org. And finally, we also got recognition of the Unesco Commission, of the German Unesco Commission, who says like this is an innovative project to preserve immaterial world cultural heritage. And at the same time, Amber Valletta, one of the supermodels, about 10 years ago, now she's taking care of also her own fashion line, bought our products, and they will be released in the US in September. So that's what I love about this project, is like you are in all these worlds. So what is our vision? Our vision is to become the trusted global brand for crafted luxury, where people can find a culture in which it is transparent that all people involved in the value chain profit or benefit of the profits. So this is my call to you. So if you are in any culture where you have contacts or ideas or whatsoever, we would love to expand and to go to new cultures and send more designers to the world. And so what can the creative industries contribute? Because this is like what we are talking about today, I think. And the first thing is, it's the openness and curiosity. I think never go to anywhere with a prejudice. Try to be, look at the people on an eye-to-eye level and respect them for what they know. And we can learn all from each other. And I think especially in the designer and in the creative industries, you have a natural respect for the skills. And this is a really good thing that actually everybody can learn. But this is what I saw in all the designers. Everybody was like, oh, wow, look what they can do. They didn't look at the surrounding, which was gross and whatsoever. They looked at the skills and they respected them. And it's an interaction between the cultures. So you do something together. You work on something and you have a tangible result that you actually created together. And I think also this is something that's very special about the creative industries and where we can contribute and also make benchmarks for other industries. And it's a playful approach. You just try out things and then you fail one day, the next day you make something extremely cool, but that's like prototyping, yeah, in a very basic way. And this is something you have to take time to learn. Like this is, I think, the basic thing. And obviously in the creative industries, we have the power to share the stories and to bring them to the world. And I think this is kind of our task, to really do it in a positive way so that people can participate and feel involved, although they might not have the possibility to go to all these different cultures. So quickly, who we are, it's not just me, it's a team. You can never do things like this by yourself. And there are a lot more people who are involved who just dedicate their time in supporting us, which is really fantastic. And this is, thank you. That's it.